I practice in the area of plaintiff's class action work. I practice with the firm of Pensa LLP in London and Toronto, Ontario. I chose that area in part because I was offered the opportunity to work in the field by my now partner Dave Williams. I also chose to work in the area because it, of all areas of the law, suits my own personal philosophy the best. Class actions involve a commitment to access to justice, a commitment to rebalancing certain inequities in the legal system. And those are things that I feel very strongly about, and I feel very lucky to have the opportunity to practice in the field. I value plaintiff's class action work because it gives me the opportunity to make a significant difference. If you think about what class actions are, they're generally brought on behalf of a large number of people or companies or both. They generally concern significant matters that involve substantial dollar amounts, and so I value the opportunity to make a significant difference in the course of my work, and I find that class actions working for the plaintiff's side gives me the opportunity to do that. There are goals underlying class action legislation in Ontario. There are three of them. One of them is access to justice, the other is behavior modification, and the third is judicial economy. And I have to say, in the current climate, legal climate, those are goals that are very important societally, and I value those goals personally myself. I think they're things that reflect my views and objectives personally in terms of the practice of law generally, and specifically in the area of class actions. I've been lucky in my life with mentorship, particularly at my firm. Pensa, who is one of the founders of Pensa, gave me good advice when I was an articling student, and I've never forgotten it. His piece of advice was, there are two kinds of lawyers in this world. There are problem solvers and problem creators. Always be a problem solver, never be a problem creator. And I carry that with me to this day. Pro bono and volunteer activity is something that I think has, to the credit of the legal profession, been a long-standing and meaningful part of what we do. I can tell you that in my work, class actions work, access to justice is an important goal. I see pro bono work as an element of creating access to the legal system for the public. And so it's a very important component of things. It means a lot to me. I can tell you that in my day-to-day experience, I spend a lot of time talking to class members in cases or people who want to look at starting a class action. And they're asking questions about claims that are often very small and they're uneconomical. They're difficult claims to bring in the legal system absent something like a class action. And so if we mean what we do in terms of class actions, that we have a commitment to it, we want to make sure that we pay attention to those small claims and do the things that we can do to help people navigate the system somehow. So I always like to give a little bit of helpful advice to somebody, even if I can't take on a matter for them in the usual or traditional sense. So pro bono work is obviously in the formal sense very important, but informally too, in the kinds of things that we do day to day, it's an important part of a practice like mine. I think overcoming obstacles in the legal profession is something that is pretty standard. It's not an easy profession, obviously. The people that practice in the area will know that. I can tell you that in my practice area, in class actions, it's a very competitive area. For one, there are a number of fine other plaintiffs' firms who do the kind of work that I do. So first and foremost, we compete with each other, and that's not an easy thing. Second, once our cases are commenced, we run our cases against a very, very strong defense bar in Canada, who all conduct themselves to the highest standards and maintain their clients' interests to the highest level. So the challenges that we see, one, are competing with our fellow plaintiffs' lawyers, and the other is overcoming the strong defenses that are put forward from time to time by the defense bar. So there are two very significant levels of challenge in our area. The most significant element of volunteer work in my practice area is teaching class actions at the law school at the University of Western Ontario, where I graduated. That's been by far the most meaningful volunteer experience for me. I was honored to be asked to teach the course last year, and I'm teaching it again this year. I find it invigorating to make a contribution like that to students in law school. I was lucky enough to have been a student when I was in law school in the first ever class actions course that was taught in a Canadian law school. So I'm honored now to teach that same course to students at Western. So I find that, one, an interesting way of making sure that you can explain the fundamentals of the work that you do, because students always have a way of asking you the one thing that you hadn't thought of, or the one thing that you hadn't thought more fundamentally about. So there are things we just do day to day in our practice. Turning around and explaining the fundamentals of it and teaching it to someone else is a whole other matter. So I found it to be gratifying, one, for the contribution that we get to make to the law school and helping students learn. But on the other side of it, it's very valuable to me to see it through their eyes and to understand the fundamentals of it in a different way. And it I think makes me a better advocate as well in the course of my practice. All lawyers have to ask themselves on some level what it is that generates success or failure. And in my view, it's a combination for me, some combination of aggression and patience, if that makes any sense. In our area, we have to be prepared to push hard and to be aggressive about running cases, but at the same time, the average class action matter takes years to manage, and so we have to have some balance of patience as well at the same time. So if I were to pinpoint what I think the attributes are that contribute to success, it's a combination of aggression and patience on some level.